This is not about whether Parliament's sovereign, it's about whether the British people are sovereign.
Welcome to WatchMojoUK, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 times Nigel Farage pissed everyone off.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
For this list, we'll be looking at controversial moments and scandals throughout the former UKIP leader's career that annoyed the British public. What's the worst thing Farage has done? Let us know below. Number 10. Early start. Even in his early days, Nigel Farage was apparently already upsetting everyone. In 2013, Channel 4 News got a scoop that Farage's childhood teacher was talking about their problematic pupil in a letter. Written in 1981, Chloe Deacon begged the master of Dulwich College not to appoint Farage as a prefect. She had heard from other teachers that Farage was a fascist and racist. At one point, Farage was allegedly horrible to another pupil with his views, so much so that he was removed from class. There were even accusations he sang youth songs from World War II Germany as he marched through the village. Farage denied the accusations, sort of.
Yes, of course, I said some ridiculous things that upset
Racist
them.
things.
Not necessarily racist things.
He claimed he'd said things to wind people up, but not necessarily racist things. Number 9. Cheap excuse.
You're losing, folks! You're losing!
In 2014, 100 people that paid £25 for their tickets were waiting to attend the Meet Nigel Farage event in Port Talbot, Wales. Only the then UKIP leader didn't turn up at the scheduled time. Weird. When asked about it by journalists, rather than hold his hands up and say he made a time management error, he blamed immigrants. Very on brand. He claimed his lateness was nothing to do with professionalism. Instead, the M4 was filled with cars due to open-door immigration. As a result, it apparently took Farage over 6 hours to travel to Wales. Politicians from all sides of the spectrum slated Farage on social media for his comments. Number 8. Putin Pow. In the current climate, Russia's leader Vladimir Putin isn't a popular figure. His actions against Ukraine have been condemned by many people across the world. One person who expressed his love for Putin in the past is Farage. Speaking to GQ magazine in 2014, Farage was asked which world leader he most admired. He responded that Putin was his guy as an operator, but not as a human being.
Amongst the long list of foreign policy failures and contradictions in the last few years, including of course the bombing of Libya, the desire to arm the rebels in Syria, has been the unnecessary provocation of Vladimir Putin.
Even with that qualifier, many people were upset with Farage's stance, especially after he condemned Russia's annexation of Crimea but added if you poke the Russian bear with a stick, he will respond. Farage then gushed over Putin's response to the Syria crisis before describing then German Chancellor Angela Merkel as incredibly cold. Number 7. Misogyny. 2014 was a busy year for Farage scandals. This time, women were his target, in particular prospective employed mothers. During a speech, he argued that there's no discrimination against women in financial institutions. He also stated women in the industry are worth less than men as they have to take 2 to 3 years off work to raise a family.
And if that happens, you would have stirred up, I think, the biggest political upset we've ever seen.
After taking unnecessary shots at working mothers, groups like Maternity Action condemned his comments. But this wasn't the only time he's upset women. In 2010, in an interview with Belgian magazine Up Front, when speaking about maternity leave, Farage grossly boasted he's got so many women pregnant over the years that he has a different view on the matter. Number 6. Slur defence. In 2014, UKIP candidate for the South Basildon and East Turok seat Kerry Smith resigned after using homophobic and racist language. Not long after, Nigel Farage arrived on LBC for an interview with Nick Ferrari to discuss the incident. Farage described Smith as a rough diamond who's working class, and a lot of people speak similarly. Farage further nailed his point by suggesting that when people are getting a Chinese takeaway, they'll use a racial slur with their mates.
So you've never used that word?
I don't think I've ever used that word.
When Farage says he wouldn't, Farage backtracks and claims a lot of people would, but he wouldn't either. Most political leaders would resign after making such grim comments, but not Farage.
I think we're very snobbish in London about condemning people.
Number 5. Farage versus Claire Byrne.
We don't have shortages of anything here. We're fine. Don't worry about us. We're okay.
Yes, and that's because our economy is much more vibrant.
In 2021, Farage decided to take his anti-EU beliefs to Ireland, where he was a guest on Claire Byrne Live. But it didn't go the way he hoped. Brought on to discuss Brexit, Ireland and the issues with the Northern Ireland Protocol, Farage sprouted his usual message that the EU is responsible for everything bad. Byrne wasn't having it.
Nobody is saying that here. Nobody, nobody is saying that here. People tried to sell that argument.
As a way to make a point about his lack of knowledge of Irish history and culture, Byrne referenced a cameo video Farage did where he was paid £87 to yell, "Up the Ra!" which is a support slogan for the Irish Republican Army. While Farage apologised for the video, it's delightful to see him squirm in the interview. Number 4. Prejudice. In 2017, whilst hosting his LBC radio show at the time, a caller rang in to discuss with Farage the apparent power of lobby groups in US politics. The conversation soon rolled into an uncomfortable area when Farage mentioned the Jewish lobby in Washington. Farage stated that whilst the Jewish population in the States is small, their influence is quite big.
There are about 6 million Jewish people living in America, so as a percentage it's quite small, but in terms of influence, it's quite big.
Jewish people and groups were outraged at Farage's comments. Some stated that his views played on anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that Jewish people were controlling the US government. The group, Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, called for Farage to apologise and withdraw his comments, or he should be sacked by LBC. Number 3. Expenses Taker. In 2009, the UK was shocked by the MP expenses scandal. On top of collecting a high salary, these politicians were claiming expenses on all sorts of things that they should be paying for with their own cash. One such critic was Farage, at least publicly.
But I get given, as does every other British MEP, £3,580 every month to spend in the United Kingdom and in my constituency as I see fit.
Privately, it was a different story. During a debate, Farage was asked how much he'd received in expenses and allowances since becoming an MEP in 1999. He stated it was close to a massive £2 million. He also mentioned he used some of that cash to fund UKIP's anti-EU message. At the time, he was bringing in £64,000 a year for being a member of the European Parliament. Number 2. Coasting his job. Since we mentioned Farage's MEP career, he's not the most dedicated person in the role. In fact, in 2016, it was discovered he had the lowest voting record out of any active MEP. Between 2014 to 2016, Farage only turned up to vote 40.7% of the time. There was one person below Farage in the rankings, Ireland's Brian Crowley, who never voted during this period, mostly because of ill health stemming from being in a wheelchair since he was 16. Farage ironically told the MEPs after Brexit that they weren't laughing now, and most of them have never done a proper job in their lives. Well, neither has Farage when he was in the European Parliament, it seems. Number 1. RNLI Critic. The RNLI provide a fantastic rescue service for those at sea and on beaches. One of their top jobs is saving migrants crossing the channel to get to the UK in badly built boats, which ruins Farage's hobby of standing on the coastline and recording these dinghies coming in whilst complaining.
It is to be regretted that the RNLI in Kent particularly, partly in East Sussex, increasingly is becoming a taxi service for the illegal gangs pushing migrants across into the English Channel.
In 2021, Farage described the charity as a taxi service for the migrants. In the space of a day, the UK public showed they didn't agree with the politician at all. Donations to the RNLI rose by a massive 3,000%. On top of this, a fundraiser was put together to buy the sea rescuers a new hovercraft named the Flying Farage. Amazing.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojoUK and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.